Welcome to clubakwaaba on MuntuNaBantu Digital Narrowcast. The thoughts, views, opinions expressed by the host of this narrowcast are for educational purposes only and may at times become entertaining or nonetheless serious in nature due to the topics we select and cover. We are not exposing, revealing, indicting, or telling you anything other than what's already reported by the big budget mainstream media. We look to shine the light of Baba Mungu by exposing what is done in darkness to light. Enjoy the narrowcast.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is your brother SilverbackKONGO and
this is Jade Phoenix Rising.
excellent, Jade. Welcome back.
Thank you.
This is interesting. We are being consistent. I'm happy about that. Family, I thank you for coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. I thank you guys for coming to this narrowcast. If this is your first time, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the narrowcast and to also like, if you like the content. And if you do like the content, then it will be encouraging after you've heard the narrowcast to also comment, to contribute your thoughts on the subject matter. And last but not least, please help us grow our channel by sharing the content with those whom you think may be interested or even more benefit from the content. Right, Jade?
That's correct.
Yes. So we are, the next topic is, for me, it's a very, very important topic. Okay. So it's a topic that holds, that brings value to our community. And it also is a topic that secures our continuation as a people. I know having children and reproducing as a community is very, very important, but some people don't think so. But I feel that this particular function, this particular topic that we're going to talk about, it's a function that keeps our people and our progress, our ideas, our community together. Okay? And that function is education. All right? Because within education, we can continue our culture, our ideals, and at the present time, there is a great compromise that's in place to stifle, to disrupt, to, if you ask me, destroy our community. Okay? Because they're bringing ideals and principles that we cannot relate. So what we want to do today, what we want to do is to bring the family together so that we can be an organized group of people. All right. We need to, whatever you learn today, whatever you get from the Narrowcast, I suggest that you pass on to other brothers and sisters, because the information that we're going to provide is going to be beneficial for those who are thinking about, okay, the topic. We're going to be talking about the, what you call it? Is it unschooling? Unschooling. That's the title, is unschooling and
Yes.
deprogramming Black children. Okay. So what do you think about that, Jade?
Well, I think it's great, and I think before we even delve into the topic of the day,
Mm-hmm.
I want us to just talk about what are we experiencing now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I can't speak for every parent, every state, every district, but of the parents that I know of, there's a great disappointment and a growing concern about the current state of the schools. And, you know, to a certain degree, uh, some of the schools are blaming the failures of the school to be, oh, the pandemic is an issue, and, we have things that are out of our control. But we're not talking about health, although the pandemic has slowed down the progress of the children. We're talking about what has been in place that is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many aspects of it. You can't just blame the teachers alone, and
Hold
you
up.
can't just blame it on the economic situation. Hmm?
Yeah, there was a disruption. I don't think you heard. Uh, yeah, go ahead, continue. It sounds better now.
Oh, we can't just blame it on the economic conditions or situations of the schools or the children.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple factors that is causing a complete breakdown in what we anticipated as parents in bringing our children to, and then the outcome. Regardless of what we expect as parents, of course, every parent wants their child to succeed. They want
Mm-hmm.
them to develop, to grow, to learn, to experience friendships and bonds, and learn how to navigate emotionally and academically.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is they go into the schools and there's other issues that are not controlled. We have bullying.
Mm-hmm.
We have children who have IEPs that may have medical, emotional, mental challenges that need support.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have children who may have broken households that perhaps, that maybe the children live in shelters,
Mm-hmm.
and, they have financial distress, and maybe their self-esteem is not as good, or maybe their resources are limited and they need some kind of moral support.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the actual curricula, which is not in alignment with what we have hoped would bring success to our children. It seems to be more political um, guided, where schools have to fulfill certain um, issues or topics, and we don't know who it is that's dictating this is what you need to teach the children. The children, on a very basic level, need to feel supported. They need to be able to communicate their thoughts clearly. Teachers should encourage them to be open and learn how to express themselves. There should have some kind of classroom order. And then, of course, with the academics, this is where the teachers are guiding the students in their growth and their progress with reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if they are doing things like social studies, language arts, the arts, music, or art itself, that's great. But unfortunately, all of those classical academia um, courses are riddled with topics and what I consider to be political issues or social uh, I don't know what's the right word, social influences that have nothing to do with why parents had enrolled their children in school for.
I think you. I think.
So
I think you. I
in
think.
a
I think you wanted to say.
yes,
I think you were trying to say political influence instead of social, because the politics
pol-
is actually
yes,
really yeah.
political, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but then when a parent is going to challenge that part of the curricula,
Mm-hmm.
then it seems as if we're turning people against people and people against schools and schools against children, when in actuality it's almost like someone had set the bait and sat back and watched the dog fight.
Yeah.
It should not have been introduced in the schools to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're fighting each other saying, who told you to tell my child to read this book and why are we studying that? And you can't tell us what to do. And it's Christians versus non-Christians. And it's, LGBTQ um, people who are very proactive in their choice
Mm-hmm.
against the school system. Look, the children didn't come to school to declare their sexual freedom. That is an individual choice that
Mm-hmm.
that comes usually from adults, not children,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their preference as an adult. But as a child, the parent just wants them to get a basic education. Just like those who are atheists don't want Christians to come and teach religion in school and say there is a God when they are like, listen, we don't believe it. It's baloney. Please stop preaching to my child. And they remove religion out of school.
Mm-hmm.
There's that equal, you know, don't get in my space, don't get in my head mentality. And there's that pushback. But in this case, this is not even about religion, although it is an attack on those who have moral beliefs, that
Mm-hmm.
this contradicts their moral belief. But it is starting a fight that is um so what
Ferocious.
can I say?
It's becoming ferocious,
Contentious,
contentious. Yeah.
ferocious,
Mm-hmm.
distracting, that the children didn't start it. They just came to school dutifully, hang up their coat and sit down with their book bag, ready to learn. Not, but now there's this fight of how dare you teach this to my child, and we have a right to speak up because the truth is it does not belong in the school,
Mm-hmm.
and here's why. Children as young as 5 are having drag queens come into their classrooms reading books.
Mm-hmm.
The parents were not given a heads up. There's no permission slip saying, this is a, a visitor or a guest, or, this is a topic that you may not agree with. There's no, is this okay, parent? Or here's a workshop that you're invited to. Let us come on our own free will. It is different if it was a free reading at maybe a library or a park, and or garden, and then people are introduced. They can come if they want to, and they can leave if they, let it be an open space where people choose what they want to choose. The
Mm-hmm.
children have no choice. The teachers can't say no. The parents are not even are not even in the conversation. It's and there's this your child, once they're on our premises, we can speak to them and, and tell them whatever we want to tell them. And the parents have no say as to what we are going to do and how we're going to do it.
So let me.
You do not have any
So
permission to tell us what to do.
so Phoenix, I have a few questions, and pertaining to what you're just
Yes.
saying, what you're saying. So basically, before I ask you these questions, this sounds like prison to me. Okay, when people go to jail, they don't have any rights when they're in jail. You know that, right? So when they go into jail, when you're in prison, you have absolutely no rights. You are, you're pretty much, you're a slave, because that's where imprisonments came from. It was actually,
Yes.
it's I don't remember the particular law that was legislated, but I think it's the 13th Amendment, I believe. But when you're in prison, you don't have any rights. So the question that I have, so what you're saying is that the teachers didn't. So what you're saying is that they had a trans person come to the school to read about homosexuality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, homosexuality, but it's it's a book that they've written and they're promoting it. And again, this is marketing and promoting products. Again, that's like advertising. What does that have to do? Just because it's a book doesn't mean that, now this is education. It is education. It's called sex education.
So this is
Because a child at age 5.
I just want to be clear, Jade. So you're saying that they came to your child's school without you knowing that they were there. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. What they did was they posted a flyer saying this person came and read to the kids today. The parents were not told the day before or the week before that we're going to have a guest speaker, that they're going to come and visit the children. The parents didn't know even the day of that it was happening. The kids just all of a sudden saw someone walk into the classroom and sit and read to them. Now, of course, it's fun and fanfare because, their wigs and their makeup is colorful and it's, something that's very, theatrical. However, where does this fall in line with learning how to read, write, and do arithmetic? If you call this social studies, if children at age 5, social studies is learning things about, where's your mailman and, what does he do? Or where's your local police station and what do they do? And your fireman and, this is the baker, the traditional, this is your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yes, LGBTQ is a part of our neighborhood and undoubtedly so. They're human beings. They have rights, they exercise their rights. But we're not talking about their rights. We're talking about the regular basic reading, writing, and arithmetic rules courses, the curricula of what the kids are in school to do. The push-in, and I call it the push-in because there's absolutely no need to introduce an adult's choice of who their sexual partner is to a child at age 5.
Yeah.
I am loud and proud, and I'm proud, and okay, good, you're proud. But why are you in the child's space? Unless you're trying to promote this ideology to a child who is just forming their own understanding of themselves, learning what the functions are of their bodies, right hand, left hand, identifying left and right, learning how to tie your shoelaces, the basics in life, but you're going to fast forward it to sex. They're not thinking about sex at age 5. Sex for them really is understanding how to use the bathroom and knowing what a girl bathroom is and a boy bathroom is. That's as far as it goes with them until they learn that they have different body parts. But again, they're not fast forwarding into who's sleeping with who and who's kissing who. They're not there. But you're introducing the thought so early that now the kids' bodies, it's a perversion of the mind because they're not thinking on the level of who's touching what and where and who can has permission to. No, no, it has no place in the schools because from there, then the kids start questioning their friendships. And this is a very awkward situation for those who are gay quietly and those who aren't, where the bullying can start that early. If a boy is not what they consider to be masculine or macho, then they're going to be called a gay or a fag at a young age. Where in actuality, maybe they're not interested in football, but that doesn't make them gay. They just might be an artist. They might be, they might be a musician. They have other skills. So then it creates a sexual type of tension or prejudice where there shouldn't have been one. Because at age 5, they should be celebrating, I'm me, all about me, not about you. Um, when I say you, meaning someone introducing their ideology into the classroom. It's not about you. The child is learning this. These are my eyes. I have brown eyes. This is my hair. I have short hair, curly hair. Learning adjectives. Okay? Learning learning how to knowing the difference between left and right and up and down, the basics, direction, you know, and fast forwarding all that to what they want to consider this is social studies, not not at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't mean that people shouldn't have their own rights or exercise their rights. It doesn't belong in the classroom because that's a topic that needs to be understood when the child and parents want to introduce it, not the teachers and the schools dictating what they think the child should learn at that age. Because
Right.
that's not why we sent our children to school.
Right.
We're not there to convert the children or to polarize or to channel their minds into to sexual preferences.
Right.
That has no place in the classroom.
Absolutely, Jade. Absolutely. What if I told you and family, we're talking about unschooling and deprogramming Black children from this Eurocentric education. Okay? Because our children are not learning anything about their identity. They're learning about
True.
other people's identities, okay? Other people's culture, other people's moral ways, more, how can I say, ethical, you know? Because our ethics as Africans there is absolutely no connection to Europe, okay? Absolutely not. There's a huge difference. And our children need to be taught by people that look like them, okay, to foster confidence in who they are as as individuals, okay. And now, Jade, what if I told you that there is an organization called Men and Boy Love Association? It's a North American nonprofit organization which was founded in 1978. It's called NAMBLA. Okay? Now, my suspicion is that they're trying to condition kids very early to begin to to indoctrinate kids into sexual lifestyles. Okay? Because that's what it is. Being a homosexual, LGBTQ, this is lifestyle. These things are not biological. These are lifestyle. Now, as an adult, when you become of age, your body reacts and behaves, and it behaves according to a matured organ. Okay? Because after a certain age, your body desires to have relations with the opposite sex. Okay? But the age that they are going after our kids, they're not even thinking about that. Their minds, their bodies, they're not even thinking about those things. This is where it's beyond treachery. Okay?
Well, I think that America in of itself, and it's not to say this is not happening around the world, but America has over commercialized and over sensationalized
sexuality.
sex
Yes.
in everything to the point where the schools were the next target. Because when you go to, I have relatives in Canada. When you go to Canada, when you land and you go around the cities, their posters are not over sensual, they're not sexual. If they're promoting perfume, it's perfume. If it's makeup, it's makeup. But you don't see nudity. You don't see partial nudity just for perfume. Our ads all over the city, you see so much naked people all over the city in Manhattan. It's unavoidable for a child not to see. I mean, when I was a kid, of course, the 70s, they did have nudity. Women were braless a lot, and they wore their tops. But it was the loosey goosey generation, but it wasn't all the way down to the kids in a way that we felt infringed upon in school. We were able to focus on in school. It was, for the most part, I'm going to use the word kosher. Okay, if anything was inappropriate, would probably see something like underwear or bra, and you'd be like, "Ooh, I see underwear," and it was like that. But it was not the eyeful things that we see now. The music wasn't as X-rated as it is now. You listen to music and it's like touching this and pushing that and in and out. And it's just, how is this allowed on the radio?
Yeah.
But again, that's a whole nother topic in terms of censorship and all that and freedom of speech. But it's just everywhere is my point. So now it's in the schools where it shouldn't be. The children are there simply to learn to read, write, arithmetic, and learn a little bit about, maybe world history, or at least get some kind of understanding of continents and countries and economics, things that they can learn to help give them a big picture of what's happening in the world, something beyond local news.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jade, I have always found because everything's about legislation in this country. It has nothing to do with morality. Okay, so the times that we grew up, there was always an envelope being pushed. So what you thought was moral is really just control. Okay, within the school as well as the government in this country, it's about control. It has nothing to do with morality. What they showed you was what it seems like it was out of social morality. It was really disguised as form of control. Okay, because right now
discipline.
Now we are seeing that. Now we are seeing that it has nothing to do with morality. It has all to do with control and how they legislate their laws to bring in their deviance. You know, there's always been stories about what these Congress people do in Washington, D.C. But the prostitution, the prostitutes that go to Washington, D.C., the prostitutes that go to Hollywood in California. So we have a society of quote unquote lawmakers who are deviant because they're constantly being called. They are no different from the church priests. Okay, so what we're dealing with is a culture of a people that we have no connection. In fact, the things that they did to our people during slavery is nothing but sexual degeneracy. Okay, that's what these people have been. So I've always found it suspicious that how our people would allow this. How do we like listen to me, Jade? I had a problem with the church. I always thought, how do we listen to people? How do I listen to Gary Varmas? How do I listen to these white people preaching to me about God when their history shows everything that's just pure wickedness? How do we allow our kids to go to school and be taught by the same people who enslaved our ancestors and have been raping and killing and still hanging our people to this day? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just, I obviously I went along with the social norms with society, but it was always in the back of my mind. How do we allow this? What do we even, socialize with these beings?
Well, what it is, and this is where and why we are having the topic today, is because systems have been in place for a long time, and that kind of structure, how they say, oh, public schools are free. It's great because people of low income can work and send their child to school. So the convenience of having something free is one thing. The economics is, oh, well, we couldn't afford private school anyway, so this is, again, what we can do. Like, it's convenient, right? But the reality is just because it's free doesn't mean it's for me. It's for us. It is a given, but then we have to analyze, well, what are we subscribing our children to? Does what the school, does their service, does their purpose, their intent, their curricula really serve in the best interest of my child and our family?
No.
What are they teaching the children? Because if the child is failing, it's the school is a failure, first of all, and then the child is being conditioned to feel like a failure because there's grading and there's testing and, oh, you got this wrong and you got that wrong, and look, I get it when you want to have some kind of standard in terms of, okay, of expectation, and you have to have, some kind of schedule so that you can cover all topics. But when there's a breakdown in the curricula, where there's the political agenda, what we see as the curricula is infiltrated with topics that have nothing to do with the basics of why a child is in school, then there's what I consider to be this agenda that is not only a noisy agenda, but it's one that is diabolical because it's meant to break down the moral and social threads that the family has. The one thread, the one thing that they have that is sacred is broken because the child goes in there and someone is teaching something that goes against the family's morality. Amoral people, or should I say immoral? I'm saying it wrong. Immoral people trying to teach and indoctrinize children to say, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. These are godless people. What does this have to do with them learning how to read and write and spell and construct essays and reports? Nothing. It's devious. It is disgusting. And this has nothing to do with, again, I mentioned the LGBTQ. Yes, as adults, it is your choice whether you want to follow the Bible or not, whether you believe in God or not, whether you want to be with a male or female. That's an adult choice. But in the classroom, the children just need to focus on learning how to articulate their thoughts and learn the skills that they need to get a job, not who they're going to marry 20, 30 years from now. That is not the discussion that should be had in the classroom.
Right.
And if there is an issue, whether the family feels like, well, we're married and we have kids and we want people to respect us, okay, then have a club. Maybe you can be creative in your own way of expressing yourself, but don't indoctrinize any other person's children because you feel like you have the right to do so. Just like you don't want people preaching to your kids about God. If you don't want to go to church or read the Bible, that's on you. But you don't want that clash to happen to you too. So understand, people do have morals. But when the Black families, and I'm going to say this as black and white now, when the Black families accept this free education, it is riddled with things that you don't believe, that you don't agree to. And so where we take those reins back is when we say, you know what, let's pay attention a little bit closer to what's happening. Because this is not just it's not an isolated incident. Because sometimes you could take your child out of that school and say, I'm going to find another one. And be like, whoops, it's here too. Whoops, it's here too. And then you're like, well, where can we go? Now, this is the other thing. Some of the things that are happening in the Black and brown communities, you will not see this happen in a Jewish school. Do you think that there's going to be a drag queen reading to a child in a Hasidic school? Do you think that this is going to happen in a rich white person's school?
Well,
All of a sudden, here comes drag queens?
Jade.
What I'm saying is that they're not going to force this in other schools, but they do it in the low income schools.
Yeah, but
When I'm talking about, the perversion exists in different ways, but it's very, very, very obvious in the type of confusion, the moral confusion that this is causing in the Black and brown community schools.
Yeah, I can care less about the deviance that takes place in the other ethnic groups. I only care about our kids, okay? And I'd And there's no such thing as black and brown. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. There's only black. The people that are consider themselves black are the Africans. Africans consider themselves, you know, in America that's a political term that they use, black and brown, to conveniently declare themselves Hispanic or consider themselves black. It's a yeah, you know, that's a whole different topic altogether. But I only care about African kids, whether it's in South America, North America, Europe, wherever they are, Africans. Okay, these are the people that we need to be on, quote unquote, on code, because we don't have people like those practices. We don't practice those things, and when those things are practiced, those things are taken care of. We remove those people. Okay, because we are a people. We like to reproduce ourselves. We're about building our civilizations. All right, these types of degeneracy. This, Jade, what they did to the kids, it wasn't infiltration. It was a takeover, literally, because it wasn't done in a sinister way. It was done in a way. Well, it was done. Yeah, it was done. It was done. It was actually, yes, it was sinister what they did, but it wasn't stealth like. You know, it was like after they committed the act, then they told the parents. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Here's the sorry.
Go ahead.
Continue.
No. Go ahead.
No, continue.
Yeah. So
no, we're doing it again. I'll wait.
No, go ahead, Jade. Go ahead.
Okay, what I was gonna say is that you know, when I was a child, if a child was gay, right, it was usually not their fault. They were actually molested by a family member. It wasn't like I'm gay and I'm proud. It was ashamed, insecure, confused, emotionally destroyed, and irreparably destroyed. The child was violated, and you can't take it back. They are traumatized.
Yes.
It wasn't gay and proud with flags and bells and whistles like it is today. There was nothing to be proud about. And unfortunately, if any child or children caught a wind of it, you know, because sometimes it's hard for them to hide their sorrow, or maybe they're shy at gym time, or maybe they're insecure about their bodies, or maybe they're not sure of who to play with or who to trust with that secret, then bullies will make that situation worse, where they start calling them fags or gay or all these names that are inappropriate. That poor child is now a victim again in their community because they're ostracized. It's kind of like birds pecking the runt to death. You know, instead of someone caring for that little bird and saving it, it's like you just let them destroy the runt. And it's inhumane, but it is animalistic behavior.
Yeah.
That child does need support. That child does need a love. I'm not talking about not loving and supporting that child. What I'm talking about is originally, and I'm saying originally, like in my generation as a child, the topic of gay had some dark history to it, where there was something inappropriate that happened.
Yeah.
And if a moral community was able to find that person who did it, then they could punish them for violating the child. But today, it's a celebration, and someone who is celebrating that freedom, this is now a violation for those who don't agree.
Yeah.
Because it is like a mind rape. The child was pure in thought and no longer has pure thoughts because of the topic, because of the images, and the images, and I'm taking, it's multiple, it's not just what happened in the classroom, it's everywhere. Ads, music videos, everything, even dance, where the
Perverse.
child cannot escape this perversion. It is everywhere.
Yeah.
So it is demonic in nature. And one place you are hoping that it would be avoided would be the classroom. And again, the push-in, this is adults. Like, you didn't just, you let this happen.
No.
The school board, not us, but
It's
in
on
terms of the
purpose.
curricula.
It's done on purpose.
Yes.
It's like
It's not an accident.
It's done the same way they bring about legislation at those covens you call the Congress, right? Those wizards. They do these things in behind the scenes. They don't announce that, they tell you after the fact, or they give you a preview. Okay, there's going to be a law coming, such and such and such. The citizens don't get to make any legislation. They don't write laws. Okay? Companies go and dictate to these people as lobbyists. They go to dictate to these people whatever laws that they want to pass. And then the Congress goes and tell their constituents, oh, we need to, they create problems and then they present laws to you. Don't get it twisted. These mass shootings in schools this orchestrated things. Let's don't be, listen, we don't play, this is games that they play. These are not like, they don't happen naturally. These are not naturally, listen, these are orchestrated, high-level wizards.
Yeah.
All right? But you are very, very right.
But
you're right when you say, that not most often, all the time, in all situations, okay? Because they did a study. Before 1978, when they were doing the study on homosexuality, they know that they concluded that this is a disorder. And a disorder is, when they did the research, they found that all the people that they did the studies on, okay, were in some ways touched, were molested by uncle, friend, whatever. It can be somebody. They were molested, right? It was molestation. It was somebody who, which is so sad. They went and they took away their innocence. Okay, this is betrayal. These are just crimes that were committed against people, and because because if that individual does not get the help, right, then it becomes a disorder. And then very often when this happens to an individual, then most often they repeat the same crime because it's a crime. Okay, these are unsolved crimes, and the person that
and so
go ahead.
It's unsolved crimes, and then it continues to perpetuate because it's like, okay, going back to the political agenda, they make it seem like, oh, well, we want to be inclusive. We're equal opportunity. We're LGBTQ friendly. We're not talking about not being loving individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about pushing in ideals that that have nothing to do with the child learning how to read and write.
Yeah.
Those are social ideologies
Yeah.
that the children have no understanding about or interest. When they go to school, learning how to spell the word red should
Mm-hmm.
be priority in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Red, white, black, learning how to associate colors and separate colors and organize and sort.
Mm-hmm.
That is what parents send their kids to school with. Anything else that has a sexual connotation is a conversation that needs to be had when the child is mature enough to understand, well, maybe if even if they are or have that thought or tendency or interest, that's a discussion that has to happen outside of the school.
Yeah.
It's
Those.
not for someone to dictate.
Yeah.
But of course, if there is bullying happening, then there's a reason to intervene, but there's not for you to say, okay, we're going to start teaching, you know, this as a subject. And now the reason why I'm bringing up subject is because here's an example. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I gave the example of the drag read reading. We used to have Black History Month, which is a joke, that we can only talk about blacks once a year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We that's that, I guess that's supposed to be a step up from saying that we never existed until slavery happened in America. Like all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden we discovered blacks in
Mm-hmm.
America because they arrived here,
Yeah.
right? First class, economy class rather. So 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 the talk of the Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
I had told my daughter's teacher, I thought February was Black History Month. How come you didn't cover Black History Month?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was one of the topics that was presented, and the children had a choice whether they wanted to do, um, civil rights, not Black History Month. They called it civil rights,
Mm-hmm.
activism, like everything was really politically agenda. It was it was all political. It
Mm-hmm.
was called activism, not civil rights activism, LGBTQ rights. Listen to the word rights, rights, rights.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was about rights.
Mm-hmm.
I said Black History Month could be very enriching if we talked about inventions, doctors, um, you know, astronauts. People need to understand that blacks are not all drug dealers, like what the media, the movies depict. That they're not all homeless or they're not all on welfare. That we have prominent African Americans, Africans that have made major scientific discoveries in our country and throughout the world. That
Mm-hmm.
we are valuable, we are intelligent beings,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to show the value or or the contributions that people have done. It's a choice. Well, we're just going to give them a choice. Okay, so at age 7, the child has the choice to choose active. It was all activism, and then LGBTQ rights. So the kids, because of how they are children, when you present civil rights, they talked about Mahatma Gandhi and, you know, um, leaders like Martin Luther King with, civil right activism. Then they did LGBTQ. I would say like 90% of all the students chose LGBTQ. Why? Because this was my parents are not around and I can be as curious as I want to be freely without adult supervision. And I say without, including the teacher, because it's like, there you go. You get to choose. The parents had no say in what was going to be introduced to the kids. It was an option.
Yeah.
So kids who would normally say, "Oh, I don't think my mom would want me to watch this or listen to this or read this right now." Now it's put in front of their face, and the children are like, "Well, me too, me too, me too, me too."
Well,
And now it's the Pandora's box
did
of
they
what was just unearthed in the classroom.
did they ask the kids about? Did they give the kids that choice?
The choice was there. The choice was there, but being that they're children and they're curious, and the parents did not have a say or a heads up that we were not even going to learn Black History Month. Like it was completely, it wasn't, what we had understood to be, because Black History Month is 30 days of a lesson.
Yeah.
The children didn't have that. They had the choice of choosing whichever one. And then whatever topic that the children chose, that's what the teacher started teaching in the classroom. So they had slides, videos, links, references to different YouTube pages. And then the kids had independent research. And
Okay.
that's where it got even worse because kids were clicking unsupervised on sites they shouldn't have been on and saw eyefuls of suggestive behavior, minimally clad bodies, sexual positions, 30 days of this.
That's what they learned in school. That's what they did for the. See,
That's what
that.
happened.
So for okay. So let's make these things clear, Jade. Let's organize. Let's organize our thoughts briefly here. We're gonna tackle this. Let me just coordinate. I'm gonna put it this way, Jade. And I know exactly what your family. My sister Jade went through a tremendous of amount of social oppression from this school system. Okay, so I know her personally, and the issues that her daughter was going through these were adult issues. Okay, and then whereas teachers were doing things to the students apart from these agendas that they have, these sexual agenda that they have, but there was so much disorder and so much chaos around the students that I knew for sure it has nothing to do with academics. It all has to do with the programming and the agenda that they have in place of one, the technology, the way technology is going to be utilized in the school system. Okay, because first of all, they were losing students, so the schools were trying to get funding from the state, and then the state was using these. The state was presenting these gay agenda in the schools at the same time. So they've always had issues with their curriculums prior to the what do you call it again? The COVID pandemic, right? Pandemic, right? So there was issues prior to that. So this is culminating. It's like one issue after another issue after another issue.
Yes.
It was
compounding.
It's
all
compounding
of the issues together.
Okay, which was mounting. So you have teachers who were not totally committed to teaching kids. Okay, and then you had the push of you must go get the shot. Okay, and then you had an agenda of the children selecting their gender about their sexual preferences. So there's so much, there are layers, and this is the reason, Jade, Okay, now we're gonna shift the conversation. We want to be able to provide for the parents who are still because you and I, our children, or at least my youngest, okay, our children are not going to these schools. My child, I took my child way before the pandemic. My youngest one, I said, take the boy out of school. Okay? So his parents, myself, and my ex, we decided, you know what? Let's remove our child out of there, because it was getting crazy. All right? So first of all, the teachers, there is, the teachers blame the quote unquote curriculum. The curriculum is being, as you remember, Jade, the curriculum was being imposed on the teachers, and the teachers didn't really want to follow the curriculum. You understand? They were being forced.
And then the teachers, there still is a way to handle the curricula, but there is still a way to do it. It is about communicating with the parents. These are the topics perhaps you want to have a discussion with your child, and if there is an issue, let us know. They could have given the parent the space to say, oh, this is not in alignment with our religious faith or belief. Absolutely not. We will do civil rights. Thank you very much. Or we'll talk about Earth Day. This is a topic we will discuss at a later time. Give the parents the choice, the heads up. That is adult to adult conversation that should have been had. Didn't have. They did not have it. Then you give the child the choices. If the child knows better, they don't. And then the impulse of, oh, we might learn something or see something. Sex. Wow, you're gonna let us look at this? Yes. Not only did the teacher give them the freedom, but there was very little supervision when the kids were clicking away. So my child goes, teacher, uh, um, she saw too much. And she said, I don't want to do this anymore. I feel uncomfortable. The teacher said, it's too late. It's too late. You have to finish. She said, I want to change my subject. I don't want to do this anymore. It was 2 weeks in. She wanted to pull out. But where it was a choice, it's no longer a choice. She had to stick with it. She felt uncomfortable. And you know what the end result was? After 30 days of the children clicking away, by 30 days, the children now were sitting improperly in class. There was a lot of what we used to call footsie, leg rubbing. Kids who were best friends were starting to question whether they were gay. This is my bestie. Does that mean I'm I'm your girl? They were questioning their sexuality. In 30 days, they were wondering if they were gay. Because they saw enough, because the gay images is them all hugging and loving and holding each other. There was a lot of touching and oops, I didn't mean to touch you there, kind of accidental touching, accident in quotes. 30 days later, where this wouldn't have been, of course, it doesn't mean kids won't be curious. But again, if we are just talking about, okay, civil rights, gay rights, okay, here are parades. They're exercising their rights. Hooray, great. But if we're talking about the social, is this okay? What is the curricula? What is the goal? What's the end goal? At age 7.
Well, I mean, kids don't
At
have
age 7.
at 7 they don't have goals, Jade. They're real. The intrusion here is that they didn't tell you that they was gonna do this, right? So this for me, and they know what they're doing, because most family members, most parents, okay, and let's just be honest. Most of our people, they don't come together and say, let's go sue these people. You understand? Most of people don't even think that. Most of our people are just surviving. Okay? So they knew exactly what they were doing because, like you said earlier, they wouldn't do this in these high society, these schools, private schools that these rich kids. Because I have a friend that works within those environments where the kids do whatever they want. They can come to school if they want, if they feel like coming to school that day. Okay, the teacher can call them when the teacher calls them and give them their homework over. They have the option of either coming to school or not coming to school. Okay, so the contrast is like night and day. All right, so what they did here is this was intrusive. They knew exactly what they were doing. Okay, they went ahead and didn't tell the parents. This is a legal matter. I don't care how long ago it was. There's no time limit on that. This is an offense. The parents should get together and bring a lawsuit of the city and sue. And like once one school does it, the whole city will do it.
Yeah, but I agree, and I did speak to the parents, but they themselves didn't even know. And unfortunately, some people are just numb to the school system. They're like, yeah, well, my child is not gay, so it's not a big deal. Okay, whatever. Next subject. It's a new month. You're taking it to, like, some people, it didn't hit them as hard.
Yeah.
It didn't hit them as hard.
Yeah.
But for those who get the big picture of how the school system is failing the children, and that they're pushing immoral thoughts into the mind of a pure child. It is if you as a parent are leery of strangers and you teach your child, not to talk to strangers.
Exactly.
Then you are on a pedophile alert in the playgrounds. You're on pedophile alert everywhere, including the doctors that touch your child. Like, you are in the room when they're examining your child, right? You don't walk out and leave your child half naked with an adult. Never. You're on guard. For a good parent, you're on guard. But then what happens out of your watch in the schools is unacceptable. And parents should have, especially those who are passionate about this topic, in protecting the innocence of your child, to protect your moral rights. We don't subscribe to this ideology, period.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it is public school. No one is opening the Bible and reading it and shoving it down like how they perceived the religion in the past. They perceived it as that, right? Okay, so it is public school. And yes, it is open to all types, all races, all everything, all religions. However, as a curricula, this has no place.
Yeah,
No place.
but
That's a social choice that adults need to make on their own. The children are only there to learn to read and write and learn the basics so when they become adults, can choose what they want to do in their career.
Yeah, but
Not try to question, am I lesbian or gay or binary at age 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. Well, Jade, the curriculum has to be agreed upon. Okay, even if parents don't know, it has to be agreed upon by the Board of Education, and then then the parents are informed, right? So they can't just come up with any curriculum and do whatever they want, or do
So they
they?
say.
Or so they say. Okay.
So they say. They said,
Yeah.
oh, it's posted on the DOE, and if you don't agree, then, and they leave, they pause. If
Yeah.
you don't agree, then what? You go.
Yeah, but you have to
Then
you have to
you're
inform
free
though,
to
right?
go.
But you have to inform the parents though.
Well,
Or
yeah, no. Yes, of course you can inform.
mm-hmm,
They could, a responsible, what I would say, seasoned teacher, because this
mm-hmm,
was a young teacher, a
mm-hmm.
seasoned teacher who perhaps even who is a parent could see that there could possibly be a conflict of interest,
No, those teachers,
could foresee.
Jay, they had the teachers on the ropes. Remember, the teachers, they still were still in that, they were already having issue prior to this other issue. The issues that they had was that they were being forced to teach what the Board of Education was putting out. You understand? Because you have to understand something.
Mm-hmm.
The education that our kids have, family, everyone that's listening, these education is corporate sponsored. Meaning when they say, okay, the school gets funding, yeah, the school's getting funding from where? When they say, put it this way, when a school says the school's getting funding, they say, okay, we're getting funding from the government. No, the school's getting funding from the government that's been given by the corporations. Corporation says, okay, we want you guys to teach on these particular programs. The corporations are the ones who influence. Those lobbyists, those gangsters. You understand? So do we have, listen, this system is a compromised system.
It is compromised.
People, you shouldn't, you should not trust your government. Okay? There should always be dissent. There should always, you should always be on defense with these people. They're not people to be trusted. Okay? They'll give you a law. Not every law is righteous. Okay? We've got a bunch of people in prison to go into prison because federal law says they don't have to have facts. It can be he said, she said thing, and then they put you in prison. These are gangsters. You're dealing with demons. Okay? But anyway, I don't want to get too heated here. But I want us, Jade, because this is going to be a part 2. We have to have a part 2 to this, right? And many more, however many is needed.
And even though this was the longest intro, this was really the prelude to why it is time for us to analyze and unsubscribe. Because and even though we extensively talked about LGBTQ issues in the schools, and talking about perversion in media and music, it just in of itself, the children, their space, their mental, emotional space is being tampered with.
Yeah.
And as a parent, it's our responsibility as adults to see what we're subscribing or subjecting and subscribing our children to. Do you want your child to be treated? You had mentioned something about prison systems. Do we want our children to go to a school where it's militaristic, where they're lining up like it was a communist party? Do we want them blowing whistles and ringing bells to change classroom settings? Do we want them to be time tested all the time as if they were lab rats? Listen, when you're at your job, is someone sitting over there with a stopwatch over your shoulder? Is someone actually timing you when you're sending an email? Yes, you're on the clock if you're getting paid by the hour, but the pressure that we're putting our kids through in schools is not healthy. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually destroyed in the schools. And this is one of those straw that broke the camel's back issue for some parents like myself that decided it is time to unschool. It's time to deprogram and undo the mess. My child has only been in this world for 9 years and has seen too much.
Yeah.
Much more than I ever expected.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we would have been exposed to maybe at age 16, at age 7.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go from here? Because now a kiss is not a kiss. Now relationship is like, oh, are they gay? Oh no, they're just best friends. Oh,
Mm.
oh, those pants are way too tight. Oh, that
Mm-hmm.
bra is way too loose. Oh, this person is way too, and it's like now they're looking at the human body as if everyone is naked now. Whereas before it was just, oh, they're dressed different, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to now trying to imagine who's with who and how. Like they know they're thinking way more deeply than they should. And I blame this again. We say that this is what we call the sexual degeneracy, the agenda to corrupt the minds of pure children.
Mm-hmm.
For what? Because there is an agenda. For what? For what?
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't, because I used to teach. I teach. I don't say used. I'm always a student, always a
Mm-hmm.
teacher.
That's
But I
right.
used to work in the school system, the DOE.
Mm-hmm.
No longer. It's riddled with so much issues.
Mm-hmm.
It was causing so much stress. And you want to protect the children, but everyone is it's like it's pollution. It's pollution.
Mm-hmm.
It's so saturated with pollution
Mm.
that it almost seems impossible to clean up. But we can do it as parents, starting with your own child.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's corruption in the schools, but guess what, parents? You have a choice and you can intercede and act on it ASAP and help restore the health, the mental health, emotional health of your child when you take the reins back and say, you know what, this is not okay, and I have other options.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the pandemic had opened our eyes to see, wait a minute, homeschooling is not that hard. It wasn't perfect during the pandemic, but understand it, nobody is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
No school is perfect. No one is perfect. But there are options. Remember textbooks? There's no agenda being pushed in a textbook. There's no, oops, we flipped to the wrong page and saw too much. There's no surprise, like clicking of links.
Mm-hmm.
There's a surprise at every link, a pop-up ad here or there. And then there's tracking, cookies that
Mm-hmm.
lead kids to other sites that they shouldn't be,
Mm-hmm.
porn sites that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do LGBTQ,
Mm-hmm.
porn is going to pop up.
That's right. When
That
you
wasn't the teacher didn't plan that.
when you
That's
do
just the
wh-
systematic, a whole nother topic,
when you do a search
the
when you
rabbit hole.
because they're having kids search, and that's another thing, family. That's another thing. Jade, we're gonna have to take an intermission. We're gonna do a commercial. All right, but before we do
Yes.
an intermission, yes, should I tell them, Jade, about
Yes,
the
you should.
project, about the project?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I helped Jade with hers with the school that her child goes to. I was helping them with their remote learning site, right? The remote learning platform that Google developed, and it's still in development as we speak. I think they're gonna try to perfect it before they go back, before we have another shutdown. Okay, so they're doing these things. They're working on creating an infrastructure that's going to fulfill what they want, because these people love control. All right. So when I was when I was assisting the school, I'm not quite sure. Jade, you remember, right? The kids are able to do
Yes.
the children, the way that remote learning was set up on that platform.
on the tablets. The school-ish tablets
Yeah.
had very low privacy settings.
Very loose, very loose,
There was
very loose.
very loose.
Yeah. So, and the kids can venture away from the class. So, it should be set, and which they can do, but they allow the kids to venture away. I mean, they can do a search, and they can just go away from what they're learning. You understand? So, however, they did the way they set the tablets is that they're not able to utilize the hard drive. So they knew what they were doing. It's not by mistake. They knew what they were doing. The kids can venture away, do a search, and guess what? And this leads into what I want to talk about, why they're doing what they're doing. So before we go into that, let's go ahead and take this short break. Family, I know, usually in the beginning we do our quote of the day, but today, as you can see, we've got so much. And I think this is not going to be only one recording. We have to do a lot more recordings because sometimes I find that our people don't really pay attention. We're not alert people. Okay? We have to be told 500 times and with a few casualties. Then we go, oh my goodness, we got to change this. We got to change this. It's the end of the world. Meanwhile, everybody else is alert on alert. Okay? So I guess this is what the Father says. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. But I think, I'm sorry, Baba Mungu, but we are hard-headed people. We are hard-headed people, man.
Yeah, and because people's relationship with God is weak, so is their eyesight, so is their spiritual eyes. When I say eyesight, meaning if you were in, let's say you were a deer in the jungle, okay? The deer's eyesight is not as sharp as an owl's, but they have hearing, okay? And when you're in the jungle, you're on high alert for predators. You hear a snap of a twig. Is it another deer treading by? Is it a horse? Is it a zebra? Like, I'm just throwing random animals. Or is it a predator? Okay? You're trying to find out if it's friend or foe. As humans, we're so busy trying to pay our bills, and we just go to school and get good grades, as is expected of the children. But we are the gatekeepers. We're supposed to watch. How is your child being talked to? What are they being taught? What are we subjecting them to? We've left them in the hands of wolves.
Yes.
And how they're being treated, how they're being pushed around. It's so disgusting that if I was in my 5-year-old body, would not want to go back either. We have to listen to our children when they say, Mommy, I don't like my school. Not just because someone pushed you or poked you. There might be other things that they can't even articulate.
Exactly.
Like racism. Why am I in the back of the classroom? Why do you keep yelling at me when he's the one who started it? Or why are such and so behaviors overlooked, but you're pinpointing me all the time? Because there are teachers who are wicked like that, where they would target a child until the parent pulls the child out. There's this wickedness around these schools. And we have to be mindful, as if you are a child of God, to see how the devil is trying to destroy your child. But the school system in general, whether you are closely reading your Bible or not, is set to destroy the families and to destroy the morality of the children, to make them depraved, to make them over-sexualized, so that they start acting on those acts where there is where it's like gangs could rape one kid whether it's male or female.
Start creating
Where is
desires.
all this coming from? Yes, inciting this sexual desires and thoughts where they act upon it. So before, where there was more innocence, where you can you as an adult can say, I'm on the lookout for a pedophile so that no one touches my child. Now it's multiplied.
Yeah.
15, 5, 10 children ganging up on a girl, beating her up in the bathroom, or touching or raping, whatever, and killing the child in the fields. Those stories pop up. But where did this come from? Depravity. They're breeding depravity into the minds of the children, where you should have, as a parent, start reading to your child and praying with your child. And you have to recognize the evil, call it what it is, and say, you know what? If the school is wicked and depraved, then your child has no place being there.
Right.
If there is too much, if they're not safeguarding your child's needs, their morality is in a moral school. The bullying, they say this is a no bullying zone, but then there's no plan of action to deal with bullies, then guess what? You've sent your child to a den of snakes. And then the expectation is get A's. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You just sent them to the pit of hell. Because your child has to fight the thoughts, bullies, has to deal with so much distractions in terms of, okay, now COVID is here and we're going to go remote, we're going to go in person. There's so much interruptions, and say, you know what, this is not working, because we're trying to do so much in the classrooms and it's still a failure. Whether the child gets A's or B's or not, it's a victory if they can. But there's just so much that you really shouldn't subject your child to.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose to homeschool, because now we can get rid of all the rhetoric, all that noise, and just focus on what the child needs. And that is the opportunity to learn without all of this political and social depravity that's being
Interruptions.
pushed in. Interruptions.
Yeah.
Yes, the agenda of those who are not followers of God.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple.
Yeah. Yeah, family. So Jade, let's take a break. Family, when we come back, we're gonna take a look at, we're gonna have some data. Okay, so you're gonna present some data, Jade. Jade's gonna present some data, and I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna give you my prediction as to why those things took place. Okay, do you hear feedback, Jade? Do you hear a feedback? You don't, right?
No, not really. No.
Okay. All right, family. So let's do the quote of the day. Quote of the day. Quote of the day. A quote of the day. Let me get to it. Well, quote of the day.
Control Alt Delete.
Yes. The quote of the day is Control Alt and Delete. Okay, you're gonna see this particular. You're gonna see this quote. We're gonna have this for this part 1 and part 2 of this particular topic. Okay, so you're gonna see this. We're gonna have the same quote, but it's powerful. So, in my take on this particular quote is that it says, Control, halt, delete. Control yourself, halt your thinking, delete negativity. This applies to what we are talking about. Okay, so let me give you guys a visual. Okay, Control or Delete. Now, with these particular commands, just like they're bringing in the powers that be, or the powers that were. Okay, because they don't have power anymore. This is why they're losing control. They're losing control and they're losing their minds, and they try to bring these deviant behaviors to our children. What you need to do is click the control button and the halt and then the delete, and you can remove these type of ideologies out of your life. All right. Don't allow, some people think that, the government is a moral institution. It's not a moral institution. Okay. The moral institution for us Bantu is our father, Baba Mungu. All right. That's the only moral institution that we have. And Baba Mungu is in control. When we say enough is enough, and when we declare with our mouths, in this case, he's telling you, you can use this computer terminology. Okay. But the idea is for you to remove negativity. You have the power, so you can control yourself, control your family, control your situation, control your ideology, okay? Control your reality, right? You can alter it. Our mind, we have the power to alter any situation. We shouldn't allow anything to come into our space, okay? That is, it's a negative that takes away from our families. We don't need anything like that, okay? That's the front over here. In the back, it gives you more detail. All right, it says inhale. Okay, you're gonna have to help me with this, Jay, because the small writings are.
Oh, yes, it's
yeah,
very,
yeah.
the fonts are very tiny. It
Yeah.
says inhale positive energy
Mm-hmm.
and exhale any fears.
Mm-hmm.
I will not worry about things that are out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
I am no longer afraid of what could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I focus on what is going right, and I will calmly think of solutions to any problems that may arise, and I can handle anything that comes my way.
That's right. And with a robot, okay, because again, they're bringing in transhumanism, right? They're trying to emerge a machinery to biology, okay? So in this case, whatever they do, we should be able to function like like robots do. Remove any negative energy. We have the power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Have anything to add, Jade?
Yes, yes, and remember these quotes of the day. Really, it is a product. This is a poster, a double-sided poster, by the way. But we're just interpreting what this poster means to us. We're reflecting,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of this affirmation, we have to affirm and assess and identify that we have power.
Mm-hmm.
We have choice. And that's where your strength is. Because when we gave the scenario of schools saying, oh, I have to go to work, your job is to go to school, you get A's, I get the money, we pay the bills. And that's our basic understanding of the dynamics of work school relationship where everybody's working, everyone's being productive. But when something is not working, what do? We have to take control. We have to decide whether, as adults, as parents, if this is not working for you, then we need to challenge the system, challenge the authorities, the powers that may be. We need to fight if it's not legally, you know, collectively, raise your voices, put the pressure. Laws need to change. There's a lot to do with this fight. But there's also the choice of pulling out. And so this message that we're sharing today is that there is another way of approaching the school system and it involves being unenrolled, unschooled. What does that mean? It's not that you're anti-education. You're just anti-everything that is going wrong in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
You're deciding to say, I disagree and I fully subscribe to this immorality. I fully unsubscribe to the structure. This is not working. And the schools itself, they don't even know how to fix themselves. Because if their goal was to just focus on providing quality education, they should have just done that. Those days are over where we used to read Gone with the Wind, which is riddled with racism. Those days are over where where the teachers are actually teaching kids how to write well-written essays. Their kids barely can spell in
Mm-hmm.
schools. They're not teaching phonics like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what did you go to college for? You want to become a teacher, but you're not teaching them what you need to teach them to succeed. So this is where we as parents need to say, guess what? I'm an educated person, or maybe you're not a teacher, but you can't go wrong with getting a textbook. There are textbooks that are out there with worksheets and homework and quizzes. You can do more good for your child by taking the child and sitting with the child, reading to your child, and helping them and nurturing them in their growth, in their development, in their education, as opposed to expecting A's and expecting someone to create this wonderful mega person. And the school is riddled with, it's infested with things that you do not want to teach your children to about. I messed up that whole sentence, but it's not the enrichment that you had expected. So as parents, you can decide, okay, we have a choice, and homeschooling is an option. It's a wonderful option because now you can tailor your lessons to the needs of your child and the pace in which your child can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Your child doesn't have to wake up at 7 in the morning. They can start their day at 10 when they're fully rested and digested their breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
There is no get in line at 8 in the morning. How do you feel at 8 in the morning? Do you want someone yelling at you at 8 in the morning or 6 in the morning? The
Mm-hmm.
children are going through this daily.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, we got to go, 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 go. This is stress.
Mm-hmm.
You're stressing your child out. Did you give birth to your child to stress the hell out of them? No. So we need to, as adults, look, be honest with yourself. What are you allowing your child to do, and what are you subjecting them to? Because the curricula is one thing, and our expectations is another, but then you're subscribing to the whole system,
Mm-hmm.
the failed system, and then you expect the child to thrive in it.
Right.
And honestly, yes, it's a victory if they can filter out all the nonsense and just say, this is what I read today, this is what I learned. Wonderful. But again, as they say, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. People say, oh, it has its flaws, but it's a so-so school. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is where people tolerate a lot of things, and they accept it. But for
Mm-hmm.
those who want to raise their child with a moral understanding of God, this is godlessness, indoctrinating children to be immoral and then desensitizing them because, okay, maybe your child has a moral compass. Maybe the child is able to make wise decisions because they have a moral foundation. But then if you're surrounded by children who could infringe upon that, when I say make sexual talk or touch or inappropriate behaviors
Well, Jade,
that draws a line, then your child is surrounded by, they're in a culture where this how could they thrive in it?
Yeah.
How could they thrive in this system?
Yeah. Well, it's the kids don't have any more foundation except those they are instilled in. All right. So before we get so family, before we get into the next topic, which would be for us to break down and provide some solutions, some ideas on how parents can unschool their children. Basically, if they're looking to venture away from the school system, okay, the way things are being done now, to a more comfortable, more intimate setting for their kids, which would be at home, okay, or wherever they think it's, wherever they want to teach their kids, with parents, father and mother, cousins, whatever, people that they trust. Okay, because we know the reason many of the parents are moving away from schools is because there's a broken trust. Okay, the system is broken. And I don't foresee parents ever again. In fact, as time goes on, there's going to be less and less public schools because of the atrocity, because that's what it is. Okay, the disruption that took place in 2020. That for me, that's a marker for many years to come, where parents would never again, ever again, trust their children, trust the education of a people who have blood on their hands, literally. Okay, so Jade, anyway, kids only have moral principles that have been instilled in them. Okay, they're gonna repeat what has been taught to them, and they're gonna repeat the deviant behaviors that's been taught to them, or that's corrupted them. Okay, if they're corrupted, they're gonna repeat those acts. Okay.
Yes,
So
and that's why it's very important. You see, because they introduced the drag queen in kindergarten, they almost, again, your child just arrived into the world. So having the opportunity to sit down and read the Bible and talk to your child about God, they kind of beat you to the punch if you didn't establish that already. So at a very, very early age, they know what they're doing by starting this type of topic at age 5. You didn't even get to establish the foundation firm enough before they infiltrated the mind and introduced into the mind an alternative way of I'm going to put it in quotes, loving someone else.
No, there's not loving. That's deviance. Okay, because if
and that put it in quotes.
yeah,
deviant.
yeah,
Yes.
because
It's the perversion.
Yeah.
So being that this is the norm, because I have friends in England as well, and this LGBTQ agenda is there too.
Yeah.
This is not just America, it's in other countries where they're seeing this pushing of into the curricula, where someone is trying to say we have to teach all the kids about these rights.
Right.
But they all need to have this in the curricula. Who is approving of this and why?
Yeah.
So if the parents do not have a foundation in God, or if they're not reading to their children, if they're not having conversations with them, then you're subscribing or letting them pollute your child's mind. And in your busyness, which leads into ignorance, you ignore what is actually happening to your child. Your
Mm-hmm.
child is being programmed to be immoral.
Mm-hmm.
Your child is being programmed to be in to be what you call it they came into the world pure, right?
Yeah.
They're
They're
they're coming into the world now to
mm-hmm.
be like the children of the devil,
Yeah,
where they're godless.
they're being desecrated. Yeah. They're,
Yes.
they're desecrating the
Yes.
Tanzambi's pure children. But Jade, we're gonna have
Yes.
to shift this conversation because I would like for you to
Yes.
provide some solutions for the
Some
parents.
solutions.
Okay?
Yes.
So
Yes. As you can see, this is very sensitive.
yes, I
So,
know.
but
Like
so
family,
but here
she went through it, family. Okay? I'm a witness. I am a witness. So I've allowed her to, trust me, this won't be the last time. She's gonna have to vent because these are the things if you didn't experience it and if someone had just told you about it, some of you won't believe it. You may call us conspiracy theorists. You know what I'm saying? It's these people talking conspiracy.
yeah.
If you're on a continent and first of all, let me remind you guys, these people, these leaders of the West, they went to Africa. They tried to convince our presidents on a continent to quote unquote give rights. Okay? Rights to not to human rights, but sexual rights, right? Lifestyle rights. You understand? No one is there is abusing them. No one is going there abusing them. But because they're trying to enforce their European ways onto the African way, it didn't work. It didn't work. Okay? Because all the leaders of the continent said, no, 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 no. That's lifestyle. Because our people, we don't focus on that. All right? And that also exposed the leaders.
Yeah.
That also exposed the leaders. But Jade, please
Yes.
provide some ways. Okay? I want to put it this way.
Some ways.
Yeah. For the parents who are looking to get their kids out of the school and they just don't know how to go about it, what is your suggestion? Now, Jade, I'm going to stop you when I feel that you've answered the question, so don't take it personal because I know you're going to go in deep.
Okay.
I'm just giving you a heads up right now. Okay?
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
All right. We're gonna start with before we get into the pros of it and all that. This is how you can begin. Okay. First of all, do not be afraid. Pray about it. Okay. You're making the right choice to get involved. Being hands-on is okay. Okay. Now, going against the grain, going against the grid, it may seem scary, but you're doing the right thing because their minds and their hearts are being protected. Their health, their mental health, and their physical and their spiritual health is being protected. So just know that you're making the right choice. So before you go into homeschooling, if you're in a two-parent household, you're going to share the responsibilities. Who is going to work full time and who is going to be assisting with the teaching and or homework, because time has to be devoted. So you have to set aside the time and the responsibilities. If it's a single parent household, it is still possible for you to work, but you just have to schedule your work. Maybe you work on weekends. Maybe you work part-time. Or maybe you have a family member, if you set up the curricula right, a family member supervise and assist with the homework. If the child is old enough to read and follow books or web links, then the child has tools to use. But just the goal is for the parents, whether it's two parents in a household or single parents, to delegate who's going to do what, who's going to be the teacher or the assistant, who is going to supervise, because maybe it's a, a grandparent, but the grandparent doesn't teach, but they can read to the child, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can go go to trips with the child. So this is totally doable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't give you all the tips right now. But what
Mm-hmm.
I can say is decide who is going to be the teacher or the assistant, or who's going to assist in the way of facilitating the education, like trips to the library or
Mm-hmm.
trips to the park or the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
It's all an educational experience where the child can write and reflect when you come back from work. So it is totally doable. You just got to think outside of the box. Okay.
So,
But to start homeschooling, it simply starts with you making the decision to unenroll your child from the public school or charter school or private school. And
mm-hmm.
you have to go online, and we're going to provide the link, and you write a letter of intent and email it to the school system. And I believe Silverback, I sent you the link.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you write the letter of intent, then the child is immediately unenrolled from the school, and the school will be notified within 24 hours. So the next day, as simple as that, the next day your child can stay home,
Right. And
because
this,
you when you send the letter of intent, you have a receipt, and that ends the contract with the school, with the government, with your child enrolled in a public school. Your child is unenrolled from the point you send the email.
so the I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. So I'm gonna, once I remember, I'll come back to it. So basically, what you're saying is, as far as delegating, if a parent wants to remove the child from the school, they can just go ahead, send this email to the school, Board of Education, or directly to the school that they are going to.
They're going to do it directly to the Board of Ed.
Okay.
It's going I'll give you the website. It's You have to write the email, a
Mm,
letter of intent, and
mm,
if you first of all go to this site, it's www.schools. We're in New York City, but you can
yeah.
find this online. I'll give you
We'll
the
put we'll put
the 50 states.
we'll put it in the description. We'll have that in the description. All the sources. Okay, so when you were saying that,
Yes.
if as far as delegating, you're talking about the father or the mother they have to decide who will be the one who would do the majority of the teaching, right? So whereas
Yes. Yes.
if the father goes out and work to provide for the family, the mother would stay and she would be the one who would do the education. If she's unable and she has
Yes.
support, then she can use the grandmother to do to be the one to take the kids on field trips, right? That's a part of the education as
Mm-hmm.
well, right?
Yes. Yes. The
Yeah.
library. Yes.
Okay.
Because there's the online version of school, and then there's the traditional way where you just use textbooks.
Right.
And we're so fortunate to have books.
Mm-hmm.
You can check out books in the library. Like, let's say for English, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you want to do Call of the Wild or the Jungle Book. And the goal is to read and write an essay. Check out a book, have the child read, and then write about it at the end of reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
That is traditionally in school, they read chapter by chapter, day by day, until the book is finished. But there's no reason why your child can't read it by themselves if they know how to read.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes autonomous now, where
Mm-hmm.
they are in the driver's seat
Mm-hmm.
reading 30
Mm-hmm.
pages or more
Mm-hmm.
or less.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter what, the child is self-driven to complete it. There is no timed testing or timed writing anymore, because the child might feel sleepy, wake up and pick it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in school, they would be reprimanded for nodding. But so there are benefits there. But what I'm trying to say is that the world now opens up so many possibilities, where
Mm-hmm.
you're able to say, now the child could read 2 books a month or
Mm-hmm.
3, because there's no interruption. There's nobody telling you, that it has to be 1 hour or 30 minutes. It could be 2 hours or less. But the goal, if you just set aside, this is what you're going to do today, read a book for 30 minutes or an hour. That's one assignment. The classes don't have to be lecture led. The child can read. So the child will read and then reflect, writing and reflection.
Right.
If you're teaching them how to do math, there are also videos, but there's also textbooks. So before you unenroll your child, you will find the resource. The resources are all there, and it's up to you how you want to cater it. But in terms of initially making the first step, it's just who is going to spend time to support the child. Because
Right.
if your child is 5 years old, you can't expect them to say, "Oh, go to the room and read," and leave them alone. They'll play and then take naps and eat snacks and watch TV, but they really need someone to play with and interact with. So who is going to guide them? So you have to be engaged.
Right.
You have to be engaged. If they're 16 and 17-year-old, that's different than the 5-year-old that needs interaction.
So
So
speak.
if it's a grandparent, then sit and read with them,
So
draw
speaking.
with them.
Speak. So what if the what if for those parents who say, well, my child does not want to go. Say the parent wants to take the child out of the school, but the child doesn't want to leave school. What do you say about that? The
Oh,
child
that's
still wants
always
to. Mm-hmm.
it's always a hard um that's the cross that parents bear when they decide to unenroll, because the children do create bonds and they are going to miss their friends. But if they're really good friends, there's nothing wrong with exchanging phone numbers with the parents and maintaining friendships in terms of play dates.
Mm-hmm.
The children are always welcome to meet in the park or go to the library or invite them on the trips,
Mm-hmm.
saying, when there's a school break and the children are off for a whole week of school, just say, "Hey, you're out on break? Great, let's go to the movies. Let's go to the zoo. Let's go to the museum." There's no reason why the children can't extend their friendship outside of the walls. You don't have to be cold and saying that your child is now isolated from the world because we don't subscribe to their moral, and we don't, but we don't subscribe to their moral teachings. But there's nothing wrong with maintaining friendships with those that are good and caring and well-natured children.
Mm-hmm.
And if the parents don't feel comfortable with extending their children to children who are no longer in the schools, then this is where you have to maintain relationships in like churches, or perhaps maybe relationship with cousins, or if you want, in terms of developing some social bonds, maybe your child is athletic. This is
Mm-hmm.
where they can go and take karate, or they can take dance classes or music classes. And now you're opening up their world to meeting other children that are like-minded and that have similar skills, similar interests. And
Mm-hmm.
so now you've helped them to build and bridge the gap of, okay, well, they're not in school to meet their same friends every day. However, they have friends here, here, and here. So the child is never lonely, like or should I say isolated, not lonely, because it is possible to still feel lonely. Um, but they're not completely isolated. And so that's why it's important to think
Mm-hmm.
of all of the where you're creating and opening up room for the child to explore and be around different types of people and different settings, but it's a controlled setting.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you say, this is where, if you decide to put them in 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 music class, they're not going to bring LGBTQ issues there. they're learning how to play an instrument, period. They're
Mm-hmm.
learning how to dance, they're learning how to draw or write or act. Or if it's academically, you know, driven, maybe it's a tutoring program, like they have
Mm-hmm.
Kuman and all. There's some paid programs where
Mm-hmm.
they can still meet other students,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a focused curricula as opposed to, you know, a free for all
Mm.
type of curricula.
Okay,
So
so
there's lots of options to
mm.
explore outside
so
of the classroom.
so Jade, what about the parents who feel inadequate? I don't have the teaching skills, or just don't have the educational background to be able to teach my child. So I was relying more on in the school
Okay.
to teach. Well, what about those parents?
Okay.
What do you say about it?
Well, 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 I mean, sometimes language is a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
We have the privilege of knowing English because I was born here, so I know it. And coming to another country and trying to adjust and then raise your child in another country can be intimidating, but it doesn't mean you're inadequate, because actually parents who speak multiple languages actually are doing a lot more than what the kids are learning in school. I mean, it opens up their mind in ways that people who know multiple languages get paid more in this country. So we should never excuse what you know as if it's not valuable. It's very valuable. So starting with what you know, you can actually work with just that. And here's an example, right? Um, if if a person is a laborer, like let's say your family traditionally make works with leather. Now this is the old school where people who used to fix shoes
Mm-hmm.
are it's a trade that is a skill that almost seems like is invaluable, because who teaches how to work with leather in this country?
Mm-hmm.
It's a trade that came from another country. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is an old skill, working with leather, stretching and dyeing leather. I'm bringing this extreme example.
It would be
That's a skill that is
that would be
rare.
considered an artisan skill, you know,
Yes,
like old
it's a
furniture.
trade that is very rare. You can't go to any school to learn this trade.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that you're inadequate, you actually have a skill that is still a demand,
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes to repairing couches and leather coats, people pay money for
Mm-hmm.
these repairs, but it's not something that you can find just anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
you might think it's invaluable to pass on your trade to your child, but it's actually you're setting your child up for a business that is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
So how you interpret inadequacy is wrong, because if you can speak more than one language, you can start with languages. If
Mm-hmm.
you are blind, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you know that's a skill that is needed still. We need
Mm-hmm.
people who are able to help those who are disabled.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trade. You are passing on a trade and a skill that you are highly skilled at, that you can't just go to any school to just learn. It's going to cost money for someone who doesn't have this exposure in the home. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anyone blind in my family, but if I wanted to be a teacher, a special ed teacher, I have to go pay and go to college to learn how to work with the blind,
Mm-hmm.
for example. So what you know is actually very valuable. So
Mm-hmm.
don't think, oh, well, if I'm going to compare my education to that of those who have a master's degree, it's all a false misconception,
Yeah.
And the other options in terms of helping your child is knowing that there are online programs where there's videos,
Mm-hmm.
there's websites that have videos like YouTube, and the child can read and watch videos or just work with a textbook. You don't have to know calculus. There you can buy a calculus book, and it teaches them step by step on how to solve problems. So you
Right.
don't have to be the master of any subject, because as long as it's in print, there's a way for your child to still get age appropriate lessons in hard copy form,
Mm.
online or in hard copy form. So you don't have to be the expert or the authority of anything. But
Well,
if there is a specialized trade
right.
or a skill that you have,
Um.
that's a bonus.
Well, I'm presenting an extreme case where the father or mother are illiterate and they don't feel confident. How do they go about it? If you don't feel confident and they don't, they will feel like they can't teach the child. So you're saying still apply the same method, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean that is an extreme case. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
listen, like I said, YouTube is something that they can listen
Mm-hmm.
to. But
Mm-hmm.
if there's any older siblings that are literate,
Mm-hmm.
they can also assist.
Mm-hmm.
But their homeschoolers are not, if you're planning to homeschool, you don't have to do this alone. You
Mm-hmm.
can form what they call pods. And
Mm-hmm.
pods are a circle of friends
Mm-hmm.
where they share the response. It's like a village.
That's right.
Auntie, let's go to auntie's house. All the kids go to auntie's house and the rest go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And auntie is going to be the teacher.
Yes. And
There could be three or four, it could be cousins.
that's right.
It could be that you're going to the cousin's house and auntie's teaching
Mm-hmm.
the cousins together. They have snack together. It's like a classroom,
That's right.
but in a trusted individual's home that
Mm-hmm.
you know that is not going to teach anything that's outside of your religion,
Mm-hmm.
outside of your faith, outside of your
Your
morals.
principles, yeah.
And just stick
Mm-hmm.
to your principles, just stick to the lessons that they need to learn. And it's going to be fun,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's going to beat your child to death. No one's going to have them stand in the corner. No one's going to be writing long, I'm sorry for doing, the what we call the corporal punishment type of essays.
Mm-hmm.
I will not disobey my teacher. Those days are over, but that's what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
I will not talk back to my teacher 100 times. I mean, in this day and age, it's like it's always punitive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you love your child, that you're going to create, and you can help create that pod and say, Auntie, she's a good cook, she's trustworthy, she's educational, she's smart. Auntie can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she's doing it only part-time. You go to work part-time, come back and pick up your child, and then ask your child, how did they do today? What
Mm-hmm.
did you learn today? And if you don't read, then tell them stories,
Mm-hmm.
sing with them, show them something else like paint or garden. It's invaluable. Gardening, it's health. That's health, and that's cooking. Those are things that is an enriching type of lessons that you don't always get in schools. Not every
Mm-hmm.
school teaches cooking. And learning how to garden is health for the whole family, because now they learn about nature, it's science, but also too they learn herbs and spices and what could help make the body healthy. How to do natural remedies, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Make picking tea leaves, mint, understanding the different types of leaves, what are edibles, like edible, I don't want to say it that way, but what plants are edible and what could be poisonous, what could be used for medicinal purposes,
Mm-hmm.
and what are just, for beauty, like
Mm-hmm.
this is a plant, it's not an edible plant, but it's a beautiful plant. But then you can learn, some plants are poisonous. So
Mm-hmm.
then we can learn about that in the library. So anyway, I'm rambling, but I'm just saying that education is not just limited to just books.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just limited to your um your educational skills level, whether you completed high school or not. And you will not be a failure if you create a family pod where they work together. They actually can learn a lot when you have older children with younger children in the same room,
That's right.
because then the kids read to each other and help each other understand things, or even correct each other. No, that's not how you spell it. This is how you spell it.
That's
The
right.
kids will start helping each other. And so it's not just all on you. The dynamics will naturally fall in place.
So, Jade, that's very, very good. That's very, very good. Now, let's come to a close. But I would like to ask the listeners, family, if you have any questions. We're gonna put a link in the description where you can get in contact with Jade if you have additional questions that I didn't ask. I think I've only asked the most important questions, and that is, how do we go about removing our children out of those schools that have betrayed, okay, that have betrayed our conscience. All right, they've gone out of their way to disrupt, and they've tried to manipulate, and because of those strategies. You have any article, Jade, that you would like to share just to let people know the outcome after 2020? You know, things that.
Yeah. Just in terms of knowing how. Wait, just a second. Just in terms of knowing that you're not alone in your thinking. It's not an isolated incident where just feel like, oh, this is not working and I don't know what to do. There is some data that shares how the homeschooling is on the rise, especially amongst African American communities, because of all and most of the things that we shared extensively at the beginning of this podcast. So as a matter of fact, in 2019, there was originally it is stated that there was about 2.5 million individuals homeschooling in 2019, and
Which
during the pandemic,
which demographic is that? Overall
um,
overall, or which ethnic is it? The black community or just overall? Which one was it?
this particular study was just overall. It wasn't just African American, but as of in terms of after the pandemic, the numbers increased from 2.5 million to 4 to 5 million, and that this study ended in 2021. But if you were to Google this, you'll find that it is prevalent in the African American communities, because not just of the moral issues, but also to the racial discriminations that the children are facing too.
Yes.
You know, in Florida, there's a lot of racial tension. There's a lot of issues beyond LGBTQ. The racism is so intense that if a Black child speaks up or is considered to be a threat, and a threat could be just talking back. You don't have to physically beat a teacher to for them to punish you. Some children as young as 5 have been arrested by cops. Whereas before, if a child is having a tantrum, they would give them a cool down time. Calm down, it's okay, there's a safe space. You know, no, we'll talk about it later. How you communicate with a child to de-escalate a situation. That 5-year-old is not going to overpower an adult. There's no need to call cops. But that's something that in terms of control and intimidation and punitive actions in the most extreme way is being taken against Black children. It's like, is this really happening in this country? Yes.
Yeah.
Are we surprised? No.
Yeah.
And so there's so many tensions. So homeschooling is on the rise because people said, I've had it the way you've treated our children. And the violence is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the rise. And you're not alone in making the decision to unschool, to pull out.
Right on, sister. Right on. Well, I don't have anything much to say, Jade. I believe, well, I know we're gonna have to do a part 2 on this. So family, take heed. And the reason we actually are covering this is because we are personally invested. You know, we invested in your child's future when it comes down to education, and most importantly, their safety, right? Because the environment that we are in, it wasn't created for us. All right, we are becoming more we are inconveniencing them. All right, that's how they feel. They feel like we are.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, and I've always said this: when you're dealing with Caucasians, they deal with you as if you are a transaction. What can I get out of you? When they don't feel like they have anything that you can provide anything for them monetarily, they don't want to deal with you. Okay? This is the nature of our Caucasian brothers and sisters. They do not see us as human beings. All right? Again, if they cannot get anything out of you monetarily, they deem you to be a problem. So if you didn't know that, hey, now it's time for you to learn. All right? As my brothers and sisters in Americas would say, get your wake up call. Okay? Get your wake up call when it comes down to when you're dealing with Caucasians. Because there's no love. Don't think that they love you. Stop looking for their affirmation for them to affirm your humanity. They don't care about that. Okay? So what I care is my people doing what's best for us. And that is building our communities and having more babies. More babies. We need to have more babies. Okay? So that's all I gotta say. Any last words, Jade?
No, we're just saying there's more to come, and we're going to break this down into some tangible steps on how to get started. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, family. May Baba Mungu bless you. May the light of the Father be upon you in our neighborhoods, our families, our friends. Let us be our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. Let us praise the Father. Let us hold to our traditions, our culture, and let us not invite just anyone into our midst. Okay, let's be, how do you say, be prejudiced. You got to be prejudiced. Okay, you have to be able to discard some people away. You have to leave. Not everyone is invited to the picnic. Okay, not everyone is invited to your home. Not everyone can be invited to your home. Okay, so there's got to be some discretion of which people we allow within our lives. Okay, who we allow within our neighborhoods. We have to be able to remove certain people away from us who are no good to us. If they're not building, okay, if we're not building for our people, who's going to do it? It's upon us. We have to do it ourselves. Okay? So praise the Father through your everyday activities. All that you do it for the Father. Ingeta. Bye-bye, family.